Hello there guys, I hope you're doing great. In this video I will show you how to set up your Thrustmaster gearbox or your G27 gearbox with your Truck Simulator 2 and explain to you how and when you should shift, demonstrated with using this picture and showing you a lot of more advanced stuff which I might not told you in my older video on how to set up the G27 steering wheel with this game. And I will also later on show you my in-game settings and so on. But first off, I just wanna tell you that I have uploaded a new video to my other account, Mr. Junk Jonathan, which you can check out here by clicking the annotation or a link in the description if you're on mobile. And it's basically just me drifting around, having some fun in my Volvo 940 if you want to check that out. And I also noticed that Thrustmaster has actually released a new steering wheel called the th8rs. Now, to save you some time, I will tell you that it doesn't support any clutch. So it doesn't have any clutch, so you can expect not to buy any H shifter for that wheel. And it only has 900 degrees, but that's pretty okay. It's like the G27. So if you're looking to buy a new wheel, this might be something to think about, as it's a little bit cheaper than the t500 RS, but it's still got that same nice Thrustmaster quality to it and amazing force feedback and precision. So now the first thing you want to do is of course download the latest software and driver. Now, if you already have these installed, I recommend checking for updates, which you can easily do by accessing the control panel for each device. As you can see here, you can click check for update, and same goes for the steering wheel. Just click check for updates there. If you haven't got these, just go into this website, ts.thrustmaster.com, which is the support site for Thrustmaster, and here you can also register your product and so on. So yeah, let's move on here. Actually, for this explanation, which I thought I'd do on how to use the H shifter for your Truck Simulator 2, I can't explain it any better than the guys on CSC Software has done here on their website. So I'm just gonna save you some time if you're lazy and don't want to read this. If you want to, you can of course check out the link in the description. But anyway, so the H shifter support is intended to be used with compatible, gear sticks and so on. It will not work with normal buttons. In that case, you can use the adaptive automatic transmission, which I really recommend because it's a very realistic automatic transmission. It's a lot of fun to drive with, so you should try that out if you don't have a H shifter or you just want to play the game without one. And the shifters that are part of common commercial racing wheels are designed to mimic the layout of the manual shifters in cars that usually have up to 6 gears. But the trucks, on the other hand, tend to have much more gears. Actually, some of the American trucks have up to 18, and some very odd ones have actually 21 gears. And that's not very useful all the time, so most of the time you will find trucks with 12 gears, especially the newer European trucks. But if you find a nice American truck mod, or also I've got some information about American Truck Simulator made by the same developers, CSC Software, is coming out pretty soon, and they will most likely have support for 18 or 16 gears. But if you can't wait until then, I actually think I found a modification to have 16 gears in this game. You can just check out the link in the description if you want to check that out. So anyway, having separate position for each gear would be not practical, so an additional control is used to select an active gear set. Then a single gear from the set is selected by standard H shifter pattern. The gearbox simulated in the game has 12 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. In the default configuration, the in-game H shifter gearbox behaves as a ranged transmission, where the shifter toggle one button switches between gear set 1 to 6 and gear set 7 to 12. So if you put it, for example, into first, you will have first, and just like a car, but then you want to, you want to go faster in your truck. So then what you basically do is press the toggle one button, which is mapped to some kind of button, and to find that button is not the easiest thing to do. But I can tell you that on the G27, you actually have it on one of these red buttons. I think this one, which I have located here with my mouse, as you can see, it's the far left big red button, is the toggle one, which is the range selector or active controller, which they talked about. And I think the button beside that is actually the one you use if you want to use splitter, to split the gears, or to get into higher or lower kind of the same gear. I will get to that later, but first we're going to talk about the range. So you use basically that button to get into a higher set of gears. So what you do is you max out on the 6th gear. Of course you don't want to exceed the green RPMs on your RPM gauge, unless you want a little bit more power. In some trucks you can exceed this a little bit to get more power and not to like block the other traffic. And by the way, this blue bar, if you have that in your side of your truck, it's actually a indication for the engine braking. So when you're going to engine brake, it uses this RPM. So if you're braking and it goes like really high, don't worry, it's just normal. It provides a lot of less wear on your brakes and stuff, because it uses the engine to brake the whole truck. It's pretty interesting actually, but that is a whole different story. So yeah, again, you get into 6th gear and you press the toggle 1 button, which should be this button here, and then you go into 7th gear once you put it into 1st, if you understand. So again, you're into 6th and you want to get into 7th gear. What you do then is you put it into 1st, press the toggle 1 button, hold the clutch of course, and it should enter the 7th gear. Now you can shift on like normal all the way up to 12th gear. And once you are going to stop for a red light or something, make sure you hit that button, because otherwise you will stick in the 7th gear and not be able to take off. Your truck will most likely stall out and your engine will shut off. So this is what is called the range transmission, and on a real life gear stick, I'm pretty sure the range transmission button is the one located here in the what is it? I don't know, one of these buttons. Doesn't really matter because you're probably not going to drive a real truck. But as you can see, it's pretty interesting though. These are the 2 buttons which control the range and the splitter, whichever one of these do that. I've driven a real truck in real life, and I must say this is really nice with these kind of buttons. It's really easy to shift, and you just basically jump over the gears, and sometimes you only just use the 1 button to shift gears. For example, he has his thumb down there now, so he can drive, and let's say you want to shift up just 1 gear. He just simply pushes that button up, then he puts down the clutch, and it's into the next gear. Just like that. It doesn't have to move the gearbox or anything, just push that little button and it enters a higher gear. That's on the modern trucks, European trucks like the Scania and Volvos and so on. And that's the way it works, if you were wondering. And yeah, then there is the splitter, which is not on default, but if you want, you can change it in the game from the range transmitter to the splitter. And there's also actually range and splitter combined, which is pretty complicated, but it's nothing to recommend. I recommend using either the range, which is pretty fun because you get to shift a lot. But if you want to, just drive around and have some fun driving and not worry too much about changing gears, then I recommend using the splitter transmission, which is, as you can see, it automatically jumps over gears. And once you press the splitter button, which is the same button as for the range transmission, then it will get into these higher set of gears, but still be like jumping over gears. On my older videos, I actually used the splitter, and then I only used this half of this picture. this right half. So I only use the second gear to get off, then 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th. And then I don't have to push any buttons, so that's the most lazy H shifter you can get. Just use the split transmission, find the button to shift into the higher set of gears, and then just drive like that, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's just like driving a 6-speed car, because it jumps over all the gears. And you will, without any problem, be able to take off, even with high load. You should be able to take off in second gear. Yeah, so then we have this very complicated range and splitter combined method, which I don't really understand how it works. But just try it out and you will see for yourself if you really want to know. But I really don't recommend it, as I said. I recommend if you want to be lazy, use only this half of splitter transmission. Don't use this one. If you want to be a little bit more advanced, and if you want to have some fun shifting and driving your truck like more like in real life, then use this range transmission. But of course, if you want to be 100% like simulation, like real life kind of way, then you need to use range splitter combined. Because as I said, one of these buttons is the range, and one of these is the splitter. So in real life you have both of these combined. So you have the most advanced method. And it's pretty hard to explain. But basically, as I said earlier, this little button here, I'm pretty sure that that's for high and low. And this is to get into the higher set of gears and the lower set of gears. So with these two you have wow, I'm seriously lost here. It's so hard to explain this that I can't tell you any better than just try it out for yourself and practice and try to understand it. And in this website you actually got a lot of other complicated stuff which I don't really understand. What you can look around here is clicking the link in description below the video and look around, and if you want you can try and understand this, because with this you can actually make some modifications to H shifter SII file, and maybe even add another if you manage to do it somehow. I've tried searching for these kind of mods but haven't found it. But maybe add a 7th gear, because the th8rs actually has 7 gears. It actually doesn't have 6 gears as the G27. It has 1 more gear, but as it's completely useless in Euro Truck Simulator 2 and many other games as well, because almost none of the simulator games support 7 gears. So the 7th gear will just sit there and be not to any use at all. So yeah, that's basically it. Now I will show you my in-game settings, but before I do that I will quickly show you my like device manager settings here. What kind of rotation you want to use is completely up to you, but if you want it to be most realistic and then you're driving European modern trucks, then set it to 800, and in that way it will mimic the in-game wheel. But if you want, like me, you like to steer a lot, or if you drive a lot of modifications with those big old Peterbilt or Kenworth American trucks, which usually have a lot of steering degree angle, then just put this to crank it up to maximum. And then you go here to gain settings, and this is very important that you press default, you don't touch any of these buttons, and you increase this to whatever you would like. Actually, this you might want to increase that later. So you set everything as I will show you soon in the game. And if you think all of the settings are like overally, or the overall strength of all forces is a little bit too weak, you increase this, or if they're too strong, you just decrease this. And if you have the G27, well, I have a video for that too. So just look in the link in the description below the video for a video on the G27. But it's basically the same, just use the default settings, don't touch these. And it also has in the Logitech profiler, you will find one of these overall strength. So what I usually use is like 90% or so. And now we're going to go into the game, so 1 second. Okay, so now we're inside Euro Truck Simulator 2 controls panel, here in options. And you want to select your steering wheel and your gear shift if you have a separate gear shift like me. Otherwise, if you have a G27 for example, it's enough to just select G27 up here. And so choose wheel and height shifter, of course, if you don't want to use adaptive automatic transmission, which I talked about earlier. These should be as I have. As you can see, it's to the right and to the left here. And my force feedback settings, the overall gain, you don't have to touch that. As I said, that could be, that is probably best to change in the device manager. But you can change it here as well. So here you have also your stiffness, and the stiffness is sort of how slow your wheel is overall to turn. So if you're standing still and you're trying to turn your wheel, if you have this too low, it will be easier to turn the wheel. It will not be as much resistance. And here you have your centering, and this is actually pretty bad in this game, because when your truck is standing still, this auto centering is working all the time, so it will always auto center, and that's pretty unrealistic. So in real life, only when you start driving, the steering wheel auto centers to the middle position. But in this game, no, it doesn't, even though that would be probably very easy to script and to make it more realistic. But I don't know how they missed that. Anyway, I like to have mine a little bit high, because I like to just release the steering wheel after a turn and just watch the steering wheel auto center by itself. Putting a little bit of stiffness with my palm to make it auto center slower or faster depending on how sharp the curve or the turn is. And the force feedback of the engine, well, basically when you start up the engine and when you rev it, sometimes the steering wheel rumbles a little bit. So if you want to have a more rumble from the engine, then you can increase this, or if you think it's too much, just decrease this. I like to have it a little bit high so you can feel the engine. And here's the terrain. This terrain is actually like when you drive in the sand, you will feel a lot of rumbling. So if you think it's too much when you drive off-road, just decrease this a little bit. And the collisions, well, I think the collisions, I'm not sure if the collisions or the train, but I guess it's for the collisions, and that is when you either hit a car or you hit a bump on the street. And of course you want to have the dead zones to a minimum amount. You don't want any kind of dead zones. And down here you can see I use mostly the range, but in my older videos I like to be lazy and use the splitter. But again, the most realistic way is using the range and splitter, as I explained in the beginning, and as the makers of this game clearly explains on the link or the website of their game. And also here, if you want to use automatic with your height shifter, you can of course do that. So yeah, that is basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, and ask me any question if you have any, but remember I can't reply to any comments because I haven't joined Google Plus and I never will join that shit. If you have any questions, just give me a PM or ask me in Facebook